A while back I made a video where I went through a bunch of lies that I believe. Basically things that I read on the internet, I thought that they were right. Whether it was about a quote that somebody said or a graph that I thought was representative of reality, and then I realized later that that quote was taken out of context or that graph was mislabeled. I thought this was a fantastic exercise. I think everybody should do this. Spend a little bit of time thinking about the times when you believe something that's not true and why it happened to you. I think if every high school student in America did this, like, you should give them an A in social studies. It's, I think, really important to try and have an allegiance to the truth. But around that time, I also had an idea, what would it be like to try and do this for another person? Now, this is different because, like, my lies that I believed weren't lies that I broadcasted my belief in. In fact, many of them I caught because I thought about broadcasting it and I was like, I should check before I share. Like, believing something is like a lower barrier than sharing it. Like, you might believe it, but then you go to share it, you want to check before you share. So I figured this would be a harder activity. I'd have to scroll through more of their feeds to find the lies that they believed. And boy, was I wrong. Last night, I went through all of Elon Musk's recent tweets and replies, and then I screenshotted everything that sort of contained a fact rather than an opinion. And then I went and I did some research to try and figure out which of those things were lies. So here are some lies that it appears, of course I cannot know the inside of Elon Musk's brain, but it appears that Elon Musk believed, and you will be able to see the timestamps on these so you'll know it's true, just from the last 24 hours, from a 24-hour time period. From when I was looking, then I stopped when it stopped counting in hours and started counting in days. That's when I stopped. So let's do it. This is a quote tweet of a tweet that shared a screenshot of an Atlantic article, and the article is titled, "Trump is literally Hitler." Elon says, "They are literally foaming at the mouth." And the community note is correct here. This is not a real article. It's a Photoshop. No such article with such headline exists on the Atlantic. This is a really common form of misinformation. It's both very easy to do and very easy to believe. And you might think, how destructive is that really? It's just a fake headline. But it does just show like a kind of disregard for truth when you don't check something like this. When it doesn't raise a red flag or even a yellow flag, do you think, maybe before I share this with however hundreds of millions of people follow me on Twitter, maybe I should stop and check first. So this is a very cut and dried example. They won't all be this cut and dried, and they weren't in my case either. Second, a quote tweet of a tweet. It says, "Election interference. The Biden-Harris regime is recklessly pumping debt into the economy, hoping to create the illusion of prosperity while saddling the future generations with a crippling burden." And they've circled this little part of this graph here. Elon says this is insane, so I would interpret this as Elon believes this and he wants more people to see it so that they also will have this true information in their heads. This is an accurate graph of the public debt of the US Treasury. What happened here is that it flattened out for a while because we hit what's called the debt ceiling. We have a thing in the US where they have to pass legislation to increase the debt ceiling. And so during that period of time, we were not paying for stuff. And then after the debt ceiling was increased, we had to suddenly pay for a lot of stuff and it jumped up suddenly. So the story being told by this tweet is Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are dumping money into the economy to make it look good so they can win the election as election interference. But actually what happened is just that the debt ceiling got raised and a bunch of outstanding payments were paid. Number 3, what reason was given for repealing this law? He quote tweets, "In 2012, President Barack Hussein Obama repealed the Smith-Mundt Act, which had been in place since 1948. The law prevented the government from putting its propaganda on TV and radio." So I'd never heard of the Smith-Mundt Act, and I imagine you haven't either, but the little ban commies here doesn't make me feel a huge amount of faith in the reality of this, but it's good to check. And all you have to do to check in this case was to scroll down. It says the community note beat me to it. There was also a community note, but it was indeed not repealed. Most importantly, the amendment made the content available by request only. Lastly, it became clear that the prohibitions of the original law were meaningless in the age of the internet. So you could say that he's just saying what reason was given, and he's asking the question. I would not do that in a quote tweet unless my goal was, in fact, to get people to read this and think, they are bad and trying to do propaganda on us. So I don't think that that's like a weird or bad thing to say. In fact, Elon Musk more or less believed this tweet was true. Otherwise, why would he have shared it with so many people? This was just in there. This guy says Nazis are socialists, and Elon Musk says, exactly, that's not right. The Nazis used the word socialist as part of their propaganda to make people feel like, because at that time the word socialist was just like sort of more populist term. But everyone agrees they were a fascist, far-right party. Everyone agrees that they were brutal to trade unionists. They were brutal to communists and socialists. They were not a socialist party. So he says exactly here. I don't know if he's just been like walking around believing this is true for a while or what, but like that's a thing people say. It's propaganda. The Nazis were not socialists. They were fascists, obviously. This one was really interesting and took me a long time to get to the bottom of. This person says the average man is stronger than 99% of women and shows a screenshot from Scientific American that says the inequity between male and female athletes is a result not of inherent biological differences between the sexes, but of biases and how they are treated in sports. And then Elon replies, that's a big difference. So I think that it's fair to assume that he believed Scientific American said that men and women are equally good at sports, like have the ability to be equally good and equally strong, but are just held back by some kind of inequities. I looked up this article. I read the article. It is about whether or not women hunted as well as men in Neolithic societies. And it is about the fact that that is probably the case, that everyone hunted. So as part of that article, they talk about how ultra-endurance sports are actually fairly even between male and female. Like that's like it's kind of, it gets weird. It's a bit of a surprise. And this quote was in reference to ultra endurance sports specifically. Ultra marathon running, swimming across the English Channel, biking across the entire US, that kind of thing. Like obviously like the average male javelin thrower is going to have much stronger upper body strength than the average female javelin thrower. They were not making that argument, which is what this quote sounds like. But I am still not, having read the article, entirely on board that this quote is well backed up by science. There are cases where women beat men in ultramarathon races. It happens frequently enough that this is in question, and it may be physiological or it may be societal. And I don't think that we have a good enough answer to that question to say this quote, but I think everyone reading this quote is thinking Scientific American is saying that this applies to all sport and not specifically ultra-endurance sports. Otherwise, they would not have whited out the bottom here because there were more words in that paragraph. Some of these were actually interesting to research. For example, also this one, breaking: the Austrian president has broken with custom and has not appointed the right-wing Freedom Party to form a government despite winning the election. So the right wing won the election, but won't be allowed to try and form a government. And Elon says the hypocrisy of the dictatorial left while claiming to defend democracy while in fact opposing it. So this is super interesting. It's a lot of how misinformation works, which is something is very complicated and I'm not very aware of how it works. And then somebody tells me sort of the abbreviated version that is the most inflammatory possible. And I'm like, oh, that sounds bad. Austrian president is not like an American president. It's a largely ceremonial role. The person who actually runs the company is called the chancellor. And they are appointed by their party. You can skip ahead if you want. I understand. But we'll go through all of it. So in this situation, 28.8% of the vote went to this far-right party. And then the old governing party got 26.3%, and then the center-left Social Democrats got 21% of the vote. So what would normally happen is that the leader of this far-right party would then form a coalition with some other parties that are more in line with how they imagine things and want to do things. And then that coalition would then hold a majority, and together they could become the government. But the leader of this far-right party wasn't able to form a coalition government. And so the president, instead of appointing this guy, the leader of that party, chancellor, because he would not have been able to run the country because he did not have a coalition government, he has said instead, okay, this guy failed to put together a coalition. The next guy down, can you form a coalition? And very few of us listening to this know how Austria does its government. From what I have read in normal news outlets, this is a thing that's weird, that this far-right party couldn't form a coalition. And so the person who is in charge of it, even though they got the most votes with 28%, isn't able to become the chancellor. But they weren't. They weren't able to put together a government. They failed in that task. And so instead, the president has gone to the next person on the list and said, can you form a government? So I think that it is unfair and based on an incorrect belief that Elon Musk would reply, the hypocrisy of the dictatorial left claiming to defend democracy while in fact opposing it. So I am 100% comfortable saying that Elon Musk in this case believed a lie. And so those are some of the lies that Elon Musk believed in a 24-hour period. And the last thing I'll show is another one of his replies, which was posted just 2 hours before I saw it. It's a dynamite emoji, and it's in response to this. Dear party that is so against misinformation that you want to shut down X, stop fucking lying all the fucking time, you fucking hypocrite pieces of shit. And I just don't really know what to do with that. So I'm going to play connections instead. Sometimes it's just a little bit too much, and this is the 500th connections puzzle, so I feel like it's going to be special in some way. And I'm going to take a quick look at it. We've got jeans, jacket, goblin, J, beret. Beret, there's not a lot of beret things. There's raspberry berets, and we had purple haze. These are song things. Everything's in a song, though. Raspberry beret, there's green beret is the more common beret, I suppose. And there's color stuff. So green beret, green thumb, blue jay, blue jeans. Is there a green jacket? Wait, beret. Let's just do the colors. Beret, goblin. I like to try and get purple first, by the way. I don't think that this is going to be the purple one. Beret, goblin, green beret, green goblin, green thumb, and green salad. That's not going to be the purple, though. That's amazing. The colors. Okay, it's purple haze, purple rain. I don't know if purple prose is a thing. Is purple prose a thing? Blue prose? Purple heart, yellow prose, blue prose. Oh, I gotta get the purple first. Oh no, I don't know what it is. I don't know this term. Is purple prose a thing? And a long jacket. Okay, let's do blue. So we got blue jeans, blue jay, blue whale, blue moon. So I guess it's prose. I don't know what purple prose is, but we're gonna go with purple, rain, haze, and heart. Hey, I don't know what purple prose is, but I got it. This is going to be the easiest reverse rainbow of all time because it's labeled. I love that. Blue whale and blue moon. And then green goblin and beret and thumb and salad. And then yellow jacket, yellow pages, yellow cab, and yellow journalism. Dope. All right, everybody. We did that. Sometimes you have to do that as a palate cleanser after feeling a little bit upset about a guy who has a lot of power and does a lot of cool stuff having apparently no allegiance to the truth. There's so much of it. I was shocked. I was legitimately shocked that in just a 24-hour time period, I found so many misrepresentations of the truth. And it seems to me that the only real reason that might be the case is that he has an allegiance to something else that he thinks is more important than the truth. That's the end of the video.